We want to get to Nick Thompson, editor-in-chief for Wired, joins us in a very big week for big tech earnings, but also we have that hearing on Wednesday right before the big tech companies report. We're going to hear from the CEOs of Alphabet, Facebook, and Twitter. And Nick, I know that you've covered, the twists and turns so closely for Facebook, and I just wonder, the company says that they are prepared. Is that going to be enough as we are just about 1 week away from the election?
Well, I think the fact that they're testifying on Wednesday shows the perils here. They know they have to act strongly, take action against misinformation to prevent the kind of disaster that they had in 2016, and they are doing that. On the other hand, they know that if they do too much, they'll be accused of censorship and called in for more panels. So they're trying to walk a fairly narrow path here.
Yeah, it seems like an almost impossible task, Nick. So Julia Boorstin was just telling us that this time around, it looks like more the way that they treated the midterm election in 2018. Is that going to be enough? And can they walk this, fine line? Or do they ultimately, the leadership at Facebook, have to choose that they're going to either censor or de-amplify certain posts that they think is misinformation or disinformation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my view of the situation is that right now Facebook is in an impossible situation. But it's not an impossible situation because of the external forces, because of the politicians who are angry at it. It's in an impossible situation because of the structure of the platform. There's been a lot of interesting data released, including a new study I just read about this morning, showing that when you go onto Facebook, you almost inevitably become more polarized. But when you go onto other platforms, particularly Reddit, that doesn't necessarily happen. So there's something about the structure of Facebook, the fact that you're connected to your friends, that they amplify posts based on engagement and emotion. The structure of Facebook inevitably leads to this chaos and this mayhem. So you can take the system and you can add all these measures and you can put a little ice on it right here and you can put another referee judging things over here. But ultimately, to get out of the bind they're in right now, they're probably going to have to make fundamental changes.
Nick, that does not sound too encouraging. We're about a week away from the election. You're saying that they need to make these fundamental shifts. I mean, short of that, you had Nick Clegg saying that they have break glass tools. Is that encouraging? Do you know what that might even mean?
All right. So what I mean is that if they don't want to have this happen in 2024, they got to make fundamental changes. They're not going to make them before next Tuesday. Are they in good shape before next Tuesday? I think the tools they've created, whatever they have behind the break glass sign, which probably is some kind of kill switch for viral misinformation, I think that's probably good. It's not a great sign that the tools they've got ready for American democracy were tested in Myanmar and Sri Lanka. That may be a bad sign about the state of our democracy, but here we are. And I do think that stuff that they've been building that Julia talked about, I do think it's good and it will be helpful.
Nick, I'm going to take a bit of the other side on this one and say, given the year that we're in and the fact that people have been voting early to such a great extent, Facebook to some extent has already dodged a bullet. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff that could have happened already that apparently hasn't. Twitter has taken more flack over, for example, that New York Post story than Facebook did. And just as long as they can sort of get past election day itself without a big blow up, they've done okay. Why is that wrong?
No, I don't think that's wrong. I think that they can do okay. I think that by, fighting fires and carefully deploying airplanes and employing a lot of firefighters, they can actually sort of keep the problem in control. And I think they've done a decent job of that. We'll know more in 10 days. But what I mean is that if they don't want to structurally constantly have to be fighting fires and they don't want explosions all around, then they're going to need to make big changes for the next time. But yes, I think you're right. They have avoided the worst outcomes and they have done some very good things.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.